नमो नबदाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नाम। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. I apologize. Last 2 weeks we could not have the sessions. 1 week I was traveling, and the other week I got really caught up with some urgent things last minute. So I apologize for that. We have discussing from the 7th verse of Shri Manah Siksa. We have been discussing the commentary of Srila Bhaktivigyan Goswami Maharaj. So we'll do a quick recap of what we have seen till now, and then we have one small part left in his comment on the small commentary by Srimati Urmila Mataji. So we will complete that, and hopefully today, Krishna willing, we'll complete the 7th verse, and then from next week onwards we'll start the 8th verse. Let's see, Krishna willing, we will see. But next week 8th verse will definitely start. Because even something is left, I'm sure very little will be left over if something at all is left. So definitely next week we'll start the 8th verse. So before I start, I'll request Radha Pramod Prabhu to share his recap for what we saw last time, and then we will continue our discussion further. Over to you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So we are from last 2 weeks we didn't had, so I'll just give little recap so that you'll understand, will remember what we have done. So this is commentary by Bhaktivigyan Maharaj on this verse. So of course there are many things he spoke before, but this is from directly last what we had. So Maharaj talking about this Pratishtha Asha is the unchaste woman dancing in the heart. What all she does, then explaining that Maharaj says all the anarthas are gone by virtue of the holy name. And we have driven the deception also out. But what happened? This Pratishtha Asha it remains because it is shameless and it has diet preferences. Maharaj telling what it is, Swapacharaman, what it is eating. And if we want to be distinguished for our devotional service, then pure prema will not touch our heart. And the root of all other anarthas, Sanatan Goswami says that again, if it is there, it will bring all the anarthas back. And if you don't drive this away, everything else will come back, and Shuddha Prema will never touch the heart, and all other problems come as a result of envy that appears because of Pratishtha. So these are the things that will cause the problem. And the solution that is given is constantly serving the servant of Lord. And another solution is humility. If person has humility, he feels Krishna's presence. And then if you serve a devotee, what all things happen, the understanding of their greatness means you will understand the greatness of the devotee and understand what is the true devotion, and we'll understand who am I and what the scale of my so-called devotion is. So we'll understand our position in devotion. That is the reason we should serve a devotee, and we need to have humility. And then Maharaj gives examples how in Vedic culture so many literatures are written, but they are anonymous. People don't want even to write their names, and there are many sages whose names are not even known also, because that is they feel it's detrimental for their spiritual life to go for that pratistasha. And but Maharaj says if someone imagine himself to be guru, then that's the end of his spiritual life. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur says actually. Maharaj is quoting him. And then he gives example of Gopadvat Goswami, how he is the next Acharya of after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his Vyasasan, his Bahirvas, Kaupin, everything. And but not so much is known about Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Even Lord Radharaman directly appeared from the Shalagram Shila. But when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami comes for blessings to Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he says, "Don't write anything about me," because even at that level also he's showing by example that we should not take any of this pratishtha, no glorification, self glorification. And then he gives about Kumbh Mela, how the word guru became an insult nowadays because the behavior of all these sadhus. And Kumbh Mela previously people used to ride on big big elephants to prove how much they are great and all. Now it is replaced by big big motor cars and silver ratha. All these things are coming to prove themselves. And then he gives example of Madhavendra Prabhu, how he says that okay, even all the relatives, everybody condemn me and no, they chastise me, but still for me, no, I want to meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. That means he's not at all interested in how much people are praising him, what they are saying about him. Then another story gives about Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, where one devotee goes to him, serves him for some days, and then he goes to Puri and becomes a big sannyasi and comes back. Then Gorkishore Bhasma says, he was introduced. He's your disciple only. Gorkishore Bhasma says, I don't recognize him. I don't know who is he. So he said, don't bring in front of me. So he's not at all interested in that. He said, I can never become a guru because I myself as not a disciple properly. How can I have disciples? That's what Gorkishore Bhasma says. And then Hitopadesh, we have the story where a tiger is trying to allure a person, saying that okay, these are the 8 kinds of religiosity: performing sacrifice, study of scriptures, distribution of donation, performing of ascetic feats. So these 4 can be imitated, but the tiger says truthfulness, pretense, forgiveness, and lack of greed cannot be imitated. But this story is actually telling that even these things can be imitated. So that is the main thing. So the point is that we can never truly understand what is in the heart. So the true criteria for understanding who is a sadhu is he must always seek higher association. So that is the criteria, not these things. We cannot, based on this, we cannot say anything. So we this is pratishtha so subtle cannot be understood. So now if somebody says, Bhaktivinoda says, if somebody says, I am a Vaishnava, what happens? So he writes in his Kalyana Kalpatalu, then I shall seek respect. And it will pollute our heart, and it will descend one towards the hellish life. And one will never become humble if he thinks he's a Vaishnava. And there are so many other reasons to be proud. If I think I'm Vaishnava, I follow so many standards, I do this, I do this, I give up many of the bad habits. So all these things will make a person very proud. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, have the mood of always remaining a Shishya, a disciple. So then he gives the example of Prabhupada, how he replied to the letter of his god brother Bhagavat Maharaj, where he tells, I am starting an institute. Prabhupada says, okay, your disabled also can come to the this place and I will provide you visas and all. But in the end, Maharaj says very important point. He writes that I am ready. I want to become a member of your organization, a simple member of your organization. Even though that time Prabhupada is a world acharya with many centers, but still Prabhupada had that humility. So he never considered himself such great. He said, "Let me become member of this." So he's God brother. So we will never be able to achieve anything in devotional service as long as we do not banish this from our heart, this pratishtha, through devotional service to the other devotees. So basically, we have to have the eagerness to serve a senior devotees. So whom to serve? The general among the Lord's servants. So that is why. Then what happens? This prostitute will be driven out of our heart because we will see the behavior of the devotees and their humility. So this is what will touch us, and we will be able to get rid of this prostitute of Pratishtha. And what is the problem? The problem is the nature of our mind. What is the nature of our mind? It actually it expects honor. And even by performing spiritual activity also we are expecting honor. That okay, even our practice is okay, they should see how much sincerely I am chanting, how much sincerely I am reading whatever activities. And even at the level of bhava also there will be some traces of pratishtha. So that's what Maharaj writes. And the results of, if we are not careful about it with our mind, what happens? The result of carelessness is we are taking service from others for granted. We cannot have that gratitude, and then we are expecting respect, fame, honor, or something well diverse. Then the consequences will be very unfortunate. So this is actually what happens if we are careless. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that gradually, what is the stages of purification, so that we'll know how, where we will be able to get rid of all these things. So first is this chanting with the understanding of who am I. This is proper summon. It's not just chanting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it's not just chanting. If you chant without proper understanding, you may do for long, long years, but the result is very, very less. But if you chant with proper understanding, that is sambandha jnana, then the holy name will have effect, and it drives anarthas out of our heart. That is actually the stage of anartha nivritti. Only when we chant with proper sambandha jnana. That is the point. And then what happens? The next stage comes as nishtha. In that stage, our mind begins to love the holy name and everything that is connected to Krishna. So, Nirantara, so this stage comes. So chanting process may still be mechanical, but we do not want to interrupt it. We want to continuously do it. And we want to hear Krishna Kirtan. We want to hear about Krishna. And we always want to do something for Krishna. So this is the stage we get. And then next stage is the Asakti stage. At my own will, I can at any time sit down and remember Krishna. So Svecha Purvika. So in that stage, he remember not just Krishna, but Vrindavan also appears before his eyes. So he will be able to see directly, and sees how Krishna and devotees are serving each other. And whenever he wants, he can meditate on Lord's Leelas. So he is able to see that. And then there is a stage of Bhava. I think of Krishna all the time, even without even trying also. So Leelas are revealed in the heart. So he does not know whether he is in spiritual world or material world, because he is seeing constantly like that. So these are the different stages. Then he says that now what stops is the anarthas interrupt our meditation. What is this? Why it happens is because we focus on ourselves, our problems, our desires, and our image of ourselves that we have invented due to our false ego. So this is the reason. That's why when we sit for chanting, we are not able to meditate. But why we are not meditate? Because of these anarthas. Where it came from? Because of the false identification. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, okay, how to come to that stage where we can constantly meditate on the Lord? There are three things that will help us to preserve spiritual attachment and will give us taste. First is Kirtan. What Kirtan does? Was Kirtan, it's a direct contact with Krishna through his holy name. And then next is association with Bhagavatas. We feel easy and free and see everything in a different perspective. When we associate with devotees, they help us see things in a different perspective. And then last is discussion of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita gives us a special taste. And then in the end, Mara explains that despite the lack of taste, we come in contact with these three sources, a taste, we can survive this difficult period. If not, then this anarthas will trouble us. So this is what is this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful to really amazing recap. I really like the way you have summarized it. Very, very beautiful presentation. I don't think I need to do any recap here myself because it has very comprehensive presentation. So, okay. So I think we will, before we start today's discussion, if there are any quick discussion points, comments based on what Radha Pramod Prabhu has summarized, based on Srila Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj's commentary, we take for a few minutes and then we will start today's discussion. Anything anyone would like to share as add? So the last session that we discussed was the stages of purification. Anartha Nivritti, then comes Nishta, which is Nairantarya. Then there is Swecha Purvika, which happens at the stage of Asakti. And then there is Swarasiki, which happens at the stage of Bhava. And then at the stage of prema, we gain entrance into the pastimes. So all of this happens gradually, but we have to understand it is the anarthas which stop us from accessing this. So therefore, he says that there are three important things that can help preserve our spiritual attachment and increase our taste. That is kirtan, association with Bhagavatas, and discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is where we end, and kirtan is directly Krishna's direct connection with Krishna through his holy name, and association of Bhagavatas helps us gain a spiritual perspective, and discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam increases our taste. It gives us a special taste. And if despite the lack of taste, we come in contact with these three sources of taste, we can then survive this difficult period. But if I interrupt my association with these carriers of taste, eventually my interest will all go away. So we should have at least one of these, either Kirtan or association with Bhagavatas, and in their association discussion of Krishna. So this is where we ended our discussion last week. I mean, the week before that, the week even before that, I'm sorry, last 2 weeks we could not meet. So any quick discussion points comes before we move on to today's discussion, where we are going to discuss on this topic of humility, how it is important, because the solution that Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is giving here for this Pratishta Asha is Sadatvam Sevaswa Prabudaita Samanta Matulam. One should serve a very exalted devotee, and by serving that exalted devotee, we get to see how exalted he is, and how here is a person who is actually qualified for receiving all the puja, la, pratishtha, and I am a pale shadow of this personality, but still, how can I hanker for all this glorification? And in this way, we'll be, that desire for pratishtha will go away, then we'll become the right recipients of Krishna prema in our heart. But executing that kind of a service to an exalted devotee, we should have humility. So the next topic that we are going to discuss is about humility. That is the last topic that Srila Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj describes, and after that we will discuss from the commentary of Srimati Urmila Devi Mataji, and then we will complete the 7th verse that way. So, any quick discussion points before we move ahead? Okay, if there is none, then continue our discussion. So, humility, let's see what Maharaj says. Maharaj says, even at the level of bhava, the desire for fame may remain. Some of the aparotta anarthas may manifest in the form of some desire for fame, even though in general the desire for fame comes in the category of Tarangarangini, and Tarangarangini is still Anishtita Vajana Kriya. I mean, ideally, at the stage of Nishta only, there is no desire for Pujala Pratishta. But sometimes, but because the Bhaktiyotta Anarthas may remain, sorry, not Bhaktiyotta, Aparadotta Anarthas may remain even till the stage of Prema, or they completely go away only at the stage of Prema, but at the stage of Bhava, it is Praik, almost gone. But some traces of Aparadotta Anarthas may remain even at the stage of Bhava, and those Anarthas may manifest in the form of desire for fame at the stage of bhava. Very rare. But generally, at the stage of nishta only, there is actually no desire for puja la pratishtha. Generally, but sometimes the result of uh, some of the anarthas, some of the aparads that we had committed previously can manifest in the form of desire for fame. So that's what Maharaj is indicating here. Even at the level of bhava, the desire for fame may remain. This is the very last obstacle that we have to overcome. Prabhupada taught exactly this, that we must be humble. There is a wonderful story about Srila Prabhupada that Tamal Krishna Maharaj loved to tell. At the time, he was a commander in Los Angeles Temple at Las Seneca Boulevard. So, a very famous story. I'm sure all of you must have heard this story many times. Once, he brought to Srila Prabhupada's room a large painting by Muralidhar depicting the spiritual world. This painting is reproduced in the cover of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It shows the Vaikunthas and the material world where Mahavishnu is lying. When Tamal Krishna brought it in, Srila Prabhupada started telling him, each universe is filled up with unlimited numbers of living entities who inhabit all of the planets and stars. One of these planets is our Earth, and on this planet are many continents. On one continent, there is America, and in America, there are so many big cities. Here is Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, there is a street, La Cienega Boulevard. On this boulevard, among all of the buildings, is a temple of Lord Krishna. And in this temple, there is one Tamal Krishna. He is there and thinking that he is very important. So, Prabhupada wanted to show that how insignificant actually we are. But still, we think that we are so significant. That is our lack of humility and lack, uh, clear understanding of our constitutional position. This is how Srila Prabhupada taught us that this idea of self-importance is complete, absolute illusion. That does not mean that we should not have a self-esteem. There is a difference between self-esteem and self-importance. Self-esteem means uh, a lack of self-esteem makes a person feel very dejected and low. When one feels that one is useless and feels very bad about it, feels very depressed about it, and uh, and it and it completely demotivates him from performing proper devotional service. That is lack of self-esteem. That lack of self-esteem is generally born out of that person's inability to connect himself with Krishna. When one does not see one's connection with Krishna, and then it can potentially lead to lack of self-esteem or pride. So, pride on one side and lack of self-esteem on the other side are two sides of the same coin. If we are in the association of people who may not be as exalted as us, then it will lead to pride. But if we are in the association of a group of people who are all more advanced than us, it will lead to lack of self-esteem. But lack of self-importance, self-importance, um, but self-importance, lack of self-importance means we do understand our relationship with Krishna and we are perfectly happy about it. And in that relationship with Krishna, we understand that actually I am not important, Krishna is important. And we are happy about Krishna being very important. And we don't think at all about our own importance. So this lack of self-importance leads to joy. And true lack of self-importance is only possible when a person is receiving has received his true connection with Krishna. When the heart is completely filled with proper affection, then one can be happy even by sacrificing one's self-importance. But when one's heart is not properly nourished with preeti, with affection, then one tries to fill that vacuum in heart with thoughts of self-importance, self-absorption. One becomes, in the worst case, one becomes a megalomaniac. He becomes completely a maniac, always wanting to be glorified and praised, wanting always to be at the center of attention and attraction of everyone. But when one properly receives the affection, then one does not bother about getting this cheap pleasure of being the center of attention of everyone. So, lack of self-importance is natural humility, which can come when one understands one's real connection with Krishna. And in that connection with Krishna, one is perfectly happy in Krishna being glorified and Krishna being very important. So, so in that sense, just like Prahlad Maharaj says, what is that verse? Pratimukasya yatamukashri. It's a very nice verse. Yeah, I mean, if someone remembers it, you can just remind me. Pratimukasya yatamukashri. In that he says, just like when you decorate the face, then automatically the reflection of the face on the mirror gets beautified. So similarly, when the Supreme Lord is glorified, automatically the living entity who is glorifying the Supreme Lord, he becomes glorified. So therefore, when we develop this mood of glorifying Krishna and being happy in Krishna being glorified, automatically our desire to be seen as a very important person, fit to be glorified by others, that hankering for glorification by others, that goes away. So this is very important aspect, that this lack of self-importance can only be achieved by a person who understands the real importance of Krishna. And if one is happy seeing the greatness of Krishna, and one who is happy seeing his insignificant position in the association of Krishna, he can give up that self-importance. So without proper Sambandha Gyan, real humility or that lack of self-importance can never manifest. So he says, the most disgusting is when we try to strengthen this idea in ourselves through spiritual practice. So many times we try to strengthen this idea of that actually I am very important by increasing our spiritual practices so that people can notice and glorify. Huh? People should say, uh, oh, uh, Harinam means such and such Das. After Haridas Thakur Prabhu, yahi hai. Krishna Katha means such and such Das. Shukdev Goswami के बाद इनका ही नंबर है. Yeah, it is Naivatmana Prabhurayam Nijalabha Purno Manam Janara Vidusha Karuno Vinite Yadyajano Bhagavate Vidadita Manam Tachatmani Pratimukasya Yatamukashri. Okay, that is the verse. So when you beautify the face, automatically the reflection is beautified, right? So, so therefore, we want to enhance our practice of Krishna consciousness so that we have an identity in the circle of devotees. Such and such Das means they should say, oh, this is what he is famous for. So we try to strengthen our spiritual practice. um, uh, and by that we want to strengthen our false ego. So therefore he says, in essence, what we do is we come to Krishna in the robes of a sadhu and try to enjoy his spiritual energy. So we want to enjoy Krishna's spiritual energy, even though Krishna is the person who is supposed to enjoy his own spiritual energy. So when we enjoy the material energy, that is half the problem. But the most terrible offense we can commit is when we try to enjoy by means of our spiritual activity. This is the greatest problem. If someone tries to become famous by moving forward materially, that is still fine. But if one wants to become famous by becoming a great kathakar or a great kirtaniya or a wonderful deity dresser, then that is the biggest problem, because we will be under the illusion, because the people who would be glorifying us are devotees, and we will think, Arey, devotees will glorify only spiritual qualities. No, devotees are not going to glorify material qualities. So therefore, if devotees are glorifying me, then I must be a very advanced devotee. Otherwise, devotees to ordinary material people to nahi hai. So when they are glorifying, then I must have some substance, some spiritual substance. Otherwise, why would they glorify me? So this is where the pitfall comes, and we do not notice it at all. So Maharaj says, Ravana came to steal Sita wearing the robes of a sannyasi. When Sita invited him to take some refreshment, he said, no, no, I am very renounced. I cannot come in. You must come here. He had already tried to enter, but he was prevented. So he made the excuse that he was too renounced. Similarly, we come to Krishna changing our apparel, wearing tilak and so on. We think, I am disguised perfectly. Now I am going to steal Krishna's internal energy and enjoy it for myself. This is what is called weakness of the heart. So, Hridaya Daurbalyam. So, Hridaya Daurbalyam, weakness of heart. So, weakness of heart manifests in 4 forms. Maharaj is also mentioning it. In his Bhajana Rahasya, there are 4 manifestations of Hridaya Daurbalyam. One is desire for fame. The second is fault finding, when we find fault in others. Eagerness to find fault with others when we find fault in others. and deception. And when we find the same fault in ourselves, we want to hide it. And then the third is desire for uh, fault, desire for fame, fault finding and deception, and attachment towards things which have no connection with Krishna. This is a third thing. And the fourth thing he says is, let us see. He says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his Bhajana Rahasya that there are 4 manifestations of Hridaya Daurbalyam, or the weak heart that is imprisoned here by material energy. These are Tucha Sakti Shakti, attachment to things that are not related to Krishna, Kutinati or duplicity, hypocrisy, Matsaryata, envy of others' progress, which leads to slander. Slander means blasphemy. When we talk badly of others, humiliate them or offend them. And Pratishta Asha, the desire for fame. These are the 4 manifestations of Hridaya Daurbalyam, a weak heart. A heart that is not nourished properly. This lack of nourishment or malnourishment manifests through these symptoms. Tucha Sakti, attachment to things which are not related to Krishna. Then Kutinati, duplicity or hypocrisy. Matsaryata, envy towards others. And when they are progressing, we want to slander them, pull them down. This is Matsarya. And Pratishta Asha, the desire for fame. So these are all symptoms of a weak heart, a heart which is not sufficiently nourished through the spiritual energy of the Lord, which is not sufficiently nourished by Vaishnava Preeti. But when the heart becomes nourished by Vaishnava Preeti through service or through the 6 exchanges of Dadati Pratigranati Guhyam Akyati Prichati Bhungte Bhojayate Cheva Shadvedam Preeti Lakshanam. So when the heart becomes nourished by these 6 exchanges, when the heart becomes nourished by Vaishnava Preeti with these 6 exchanges or through service, Sadatvam Sevasva Prabudaita Samanta Matulam Yatatam Nishkasya Dvarita Veshayati Tam Saha. So when by serving great advanced Vaishnavas, then gradually they enter into our heart and drive away this desire for Pratishta and firmly fix Krishna Prem within the heart. So he says these 4 things give rise to the 6 enemies and the 6 waves that carry us throughout the material world. This Hridaya Daurbalyam, weak heart, just like a weak body means which lacks immunity, and lack of immunity gives rise to all the other diseases. So the 6 enemies, lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, and pride enters. Then the 6 waves that carry us through the material world. Chaya Vega, the 6 waves of Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udaropasta Vegam, Etan Veganyo Vishaheta Dira Sarvana Pimam Pratibin Satishat. So the 6 Vegas, right? The 6 enemies are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and pride. All other bad qualities arise from there. Bhaktivinoda Thakur then explains that the 6 waves are, this is different waves: hunger, thirst, old age, death, grief, and illusion. So, like that. As long as we retain attachment to material things and Pratishta, the desire for fame, we will never find peace. As long as this Tucha Asakti does not go away, and as long as this Pratishta, the desire for fame, does not go away, we will never find peace. Sanatan Goswami goes even further. He says that of everything else, this pratishtha is the root of all the anarthas. In one of the last verses of Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is said, Sarva tyage pyaheyaya. Even if a person has renounced everything else, all anarthas can return to him. Sarva anartha bhuvascha te kuryuhu pratishtha vishtaya. Why? Because of our mind, we come in contact with pratishtha, which is compared to stool. So if the desire for fame does not go away, then all the other uh, anarthas return back. Even if we have carefully overcome all the anarthas, but if the desire for fame does not go away, then it brings back all the other anarthas. Sanatan Goswami says that if you don't drive away this desire for fame, you will never be clean because it is like excrement. It is like stool. Even if we purify ourselves by achaman and all the mudras, if inside there is excrement, we will never be clean. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada calls this pratishtha not just ordinary excrement, but pig's excrement. So what is so bad about pig's excrement? A pig eats other excrements because they are tasty, but their own excrements, even the pigs do not eat. This is what pratishtha is. It is shukarera vishta, a pig's excrement. Even though the most delicious food that a pig really enjoys is stool of others, but that pig does not considers its own stool to be abominable. So which means that is how um, you know unfavorable or obnoxious is this desire for fame. As mentioned earlier, a very important principle is that if there is this one anartha left, then all the other anarthas will return. This anartha, the desire for fame, may be seemingly harmless. We may think that, well, what's wrong? I am trying to mm, uh, I am expecting something which I deserve. So is it something wrong if I, because Krishna says, right? Tena tyaktena bunjita magradaha kasya siddhanam. Ishavasya sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena bunjita magradaha kasya siddhanam. He says, you accept whatever is assigned to you rightly and do not try to enjoy someone else's wealth. Well, if I have done something, if I have achieved something, then uh, then I do deserve to be glorified for that, right? I am not expecting someone to glorify me for something which I have not done. So if someone glorifies me for what I have really done and what I deserve, then is it wrong? So that is what we think. So uh, so therefore, this anartha, the desire for fame, may be seemingly harmless. इसमें गलत क्या है? मैंने जो किया उसका ही क्रेडिट ले रहा हूँ और किसी का क्रेडिट तो नहीं ले रहा हूँ. So it makes us study the scriptures, become very renounced, preach, and perform extraordinary feats in our devotional service. See, this is the problem. The problem is this desire for fame and recognition is just a symptom that we have not earned love. And the sad part is we are still not trying to earn love through our service. Through service and sacrifice, we are not trying to earn love. Whereas we are seeing the symptoms of malnourishment and we are still not nourishing the Bhaktilata creeper. We are not still nourishing our heart. The moment we see envy, the moment we see desire for fame, the moment we start finding faults in others, the moment we start deceiving others, deception, we want to hide our own mistakes. The moment we see in ourselves attachment to things not connected with Krishna, we should see it is high time I invest in earning loving relationship with devotees. When my heart becomes nourished by serving devotees and by having these 6 exchanges with devotees, automatically the symptoms of malnourishment will go away. Whereas instead of doing that, we start responding to these symptoms. If we feel envious, we start blaspheming others. If we experience tucha asakti, attachment to things not connected with Krishna, rather than addressing the problem, we start indulging in enjoying those things. If you have this desire to find fault with others, we very eagerly try to find fault with others. And if we find fault in ourselves and we want to deceive, we really invest all our time and energy in trying to deceive others. And if we have a desire for fame, then we try to do everything, including devotional activities, to want to become very famous devotee. But when we observe these things within our heart, we should see, oh, symptoms of malnourishment, right? Otherwise, it is like मुझे body में खुजली आ रहा है, I am feeling itching, terrible itching. Rather than approaching a doctor to find a solution for that allergy, I keep scratching and scratching and scratching and scratching all over my body. I am just responding to that itch, which will get aggravated if I scratch. So rather than addressing the root cause of the problem, which is lack of nourishment, we respond to that itch, and responding to that itch by scratching it aggravates that problem. So rather, if we actually understand that the root cause of the problem is that my heart is not sufficiently nourished with Vaishnava affection. So therefore, I need to invest in earning that Vaishnava affection through service, which is what this verse is talking about. Then our situation is very pathetic actually. But in order to serve others, we have to be humble. Therefore, the root of this tree, so unless we are humble, spiritual nourishment can never happen unless we develop humility. That is why the great acharyas always keep insisting Tranadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnana Amanina Manatena Kirtaniya Sadahri. If we don't have this humility, at least we should act humble. There is so much potency in even acting with humility. We may perform a humble act, even though we may not have cultivated this quality of humility within our heart. But even when we act humbly, the external act which reflects humility, even that can save us actually. When we are in deep distress, when someone is torturing us and giving us so much trouble, if we just respond with humility, it saves us so much of trouble actually. But if we act in a not so humble way, it aggravates the problem. It agitates the other person. But the moment you respond in a very humble way, things get dissolved. So this dainya, this dainya is very important actually. So there is a question here in the chat box. Acting with humility, is it not kapata kutinati? Well, the point is, it is not. If we act humbly to become famous, it is kapata kutinati. If we act in a humble way because we are helpless, that is natural. Otherwise, if we respond in a proud way, even though we may feel proud, then it aggravates the whole problem. But okay, how do we know whether it is whether my acting humble is kapata kutinati or it is the right thing to do? Falena parichiyate. You see the fruit. When we act humbly, in a genuine way, we may not feel humble, but still we know that this is the right thing to do, so I will act humbly. My action will be humble. If we are doing it, then the parinam will be very tasty. The fruit will be very tasty. We will see in front of our eyes the problem dissolving very quickly, and we will feel a sense of spiritual nourishment. But if we are doing kapata kutinati just to become little famous and to get some this thing, then we will not feel any spiritual nourishment by that. So therefore, it is not that we have to feel humility to actually act humble. So we have to act humbly also, in the sense that even though we may feel really angry and we may want to smash the other person, unwillingly also, if we fall at the feet of that person, just thinking that this is what I am not feeling this way, but at least this is, I know this is what will please my guru, this is what will please Krishna, or that I am doing. We will see, even though genuine humility has not sprouted in the heart, this very act for the pleasure of Krishna or Guru actually, it makes us become actually humble. So, so therefore, he says, yet Kavikarnapur cites this problem in the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, where he says, if one thing has remained, all the rest will come back. So if this one thing of this desire for fame remains, everything will come back. The Sanskrit is Eka Yoga Nirdishtanam Sahava Pravrittihi Sahava Nivrittihi. If one thing out of a group of things remains, it will attract all the rest. In other words, if one anartha remains, then everything else will come back. We may be following all the regulative principles, but if we still want glory, it invites everything else back again. Because sometimes glory will come easily. Sometimes when glory does not come, because we may not be that qualified, but we have become so addicted to earning that glorification that we will start cheating. And when someone else is glorified more, then we'll feel envious and we'll start finding faults, we'll start pulling that person down. And in this way, this desire for fame first makes us addicted, and then it makes us pay the price in the form of inviting all the other anarthas. Right? So the principle is simple. If something contaminates us, our consciousness, our aura, then a channel appears through which all the other contaminations can enter there. If someone is immaculately pure, then naturally no contamination will stick to him. So if someone is immaculately pure, then no contamination will stick to him. But if some contamination is there, it will attract more contamination, like that. Okay, at this point, we will pause for some discussion. Otherwise, I'll keep on reading. And so we will pause for some discussion. I have one hand up. Krishna Nam Prabhu. And then if there are something else, we can take.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Prabhu.
Prabhu, I find that even if someone does not respect me, I can somehow overcome that problem. But if somebody insults, it becomes very difficult to come out of that.
Yeah.
One is honoring, the other one is dishonor. Honor is something, of course, honor also is very difficult to overcome. But I find that overcoming dishonor, that is extremely difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Correct.
Because that hurt feeling, it doesn't go away, whatever we do.
No, but that is actually the indication that we are in one sense attached to our honor also. Because that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Sambhavitasya yakirtir maranadatirichyate. No. For a person who is accomplished and who is attached to his accomplishments, infamy is worse than death. So actually, this insult actually shows us how much we are attached to our own position, fame, and we have to take it with. I mean, ideally, we should take it with gratitude. Thank you, Krishna, for showing the mirror to my heart, and let me work on it. So it is true, insult is very, very difficult to handle. But this is an opportunity that Krishna is giving us to learn our own shortcomings, and telling that please start working on these things because I'm waiting for you in Goloka Vrindavan. So it is an opportunity for us. Krishna is creating that. Yes, you have few more things to fix, and once you fix, then I have reserved your place for you. So yeah, if only we could understand that I know it seems like a very big price, but if it is Krishna Prem that I'm going to get for sacrificing this need for fame, need for recognition, then it's such a small price. So it's very important that we understand that what is in store for us for making these small sacrifices. Then it becomes easier to give up these things.
But it appears as though not tolerating insult, not being able to tolerate insult is not such a bad thing as expecting honor. Expecting honor seems to be much, it appears like that. That seems to be a much bigger evil. But from what you say, both are same.
Yeah, if we are expecting honor, to the extent that we expect honor, to that extent we will not be able to tolerate insult. So both are like directly proportional.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Madhavi Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we discussed sometimes back that person at the stage of bhava, he's not bothered really. Who is saying what about, means somebody is saying good about him or bad about him, it doesn't matter to him. Even if he does something good, he and people praise him, he is not bothered about that also. So when that at that stage we have understood the stage of symptom of bhava in that way. So I was finding little difficult to understand that at the stage of bhava also some trace of aparadhutta, other form of aparadhutta anartha, that desire for fame can remain like.
Can. It's not that they will have it, but it can exist, because we do know from Madhurya Kadambini that the aparadhotta anarthas at the stage of bhava is only praiki destroyed. So that nivritti is only praiki, almost gone. Some traces can be there. And the trace of that anartha due to that aparad can, not always, but can manifest in the form of some desire for fame. Even though that does not fall in the form of bhaktyotta anarthas, because bhaktyotta anarthas at the stage of nishta only is gone. But aparadhotta anarthas in the form of desire for fame can, in very rare cases, be there at the stage of bhava. It is not. That is why Maharaj uses the word may. They may exist in some cases, very rarely, but generally it does not.
Prabhuji, like I don't have any much study about the aparadhutta anartha per se, but I can learn from what you are teaching that aparadhutta anartha means those who those anarthas which appear due to some past anarthas person may have committed, right?
Aparadhas.
Yeah, aparadhas. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
So, means can a person who is not cleared that back means catalog still can climb up to the stage of bhava?
Yeah. So that is why it is mentioned that at the stage of bhava, some trace of past aparads can be there. One cannot reach till prema, but one can reach till bhava.
Okay, so maybe the shade of that things get milder and milder as one climbs the further stages, and at the stage of bhava, it will be very mild or trace kind
Very
of
mild.
a thing.
Yeah, very mild.
Okay, thank you. Hare
Right. Anything else anyone would like to share as before we move ahead? Okay, let's continue then. So, Maharaj is making a point here that if someone is immaculately clear, pure, then naturally no contamination will stick to him. Therefore, people do not attach importance to this desire for fame. But as Srila Prabhupada explains in the Gundicha Marjan Leela, if a person's desire for fame remains, one may go into seclusion and be chanting the holy name, but 128 rounds or 164 or 192 rounds or 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, it will not help. Srila Prabhupada says that the heart of such a person becomes harder and harder because pratishtha gives rise to jiva himsa, violence towards others. We saw this connection previously in great detail, which was described by Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. People who have pratishtha will be offending the Vaishnavas. This is where the problem comes up. They will in one way or other find all possible faults and rejoice. Therefore, the essence of Vaishnava ethics is humility. And by no means should we let that pratishtha, the desire for fame, which is somewhere there in each of us, become manifest. It can remain until the very end. Sanatana Goswami says, just don't touch it. It will go away. Just go on serving humbly. This is just, we saw the example of itch. That's exactly what Sanatana Goswami is also telling. It will remain. Just don't touch it. Tolerate and continue serving humbly, and it will go away. Maybe because we have been discussing for the past many weeks about this problem of Pratishta Asha, we can try to follow this simple sounding instruction of Sanatana Goswami to whatever extent we can. It will remain, the desire for fame will remain. Sanatana Goswami says, just don't touch it, just tolerate the itch and continue serving humbly. So let us try practicing it. If we could take this small vow, that to the extent possible, I will try not to touch this desire for fame and continue serving humbly. For 1 day, 2 days, few weeks, few months, few years, and this way we will actually become qualified for Krishna Prema. This is a cultivation. As Prabhupada says, Krishnanushilanam means conscious cultivation. So learning not to touch, even though the desire to touch is there. What to speak of desire to touch? The desire to embrace it is there. This desire for fame. Sanatana Goswami says, try, tolerate, don't touch it, and continue serving humbly. So if we can try following it, we will fail. We should not be fearful of failing. We should not be fearful of failing, but we should be fearful of giving up the endeavor. Let us fail 9 out of 10 times. Let us fail 10 out of 10 times, but we will try. We will not fail 10 out of 10 times. We will not even fail 9 out of 10 times. We may fail 5 out of 10 times, but we have been successful 5 out of 10 times. Right? And slowly that can improve. Rather than failing 100 out of 100 times, at least I tried and I was successful 50 times. So let us try. So just because we are incapable of following that vow does not mean we should stop taking vows. Let us fail. Let us fail taking a vow, a good vow, which will help us progress on the path of devotional service, than to not take vows at all. So it is okay. Let me fail. So, so this is a very critical aspect of progressing on the path of devotional service, is that we should never fear taking vows. We should never fear failing to keep our vows. It's okay. It is better than not taking a useful vow, definitely. So therefore, that is what is being discussed here. So Sanatana Goswami is telling here, just it can remain until the very end. So he says, just don't touch it. Just don't touch it. It will go away. Just go on serving humbly. This is what he is talking about here. If this humility is there, then the mercy of Krishna and the devotees will come to you. When there is humility, mercy comes in a natural way. We will then be safe, and the holy name will be with us all the time. The Vaishnavas will be with us, and our spiritual experience, the experience of love, will grow deeper and deeper. So when humility is there, we will then be safe. It is always safe. And the holy name will be with us all the time. The Vaishnavas will be with us all the time. Our spiritual experience and the experience of our love will grow deeper and deeper. Well, isn't this a worthy investment to make? Just tolerate the itch for the desire for fame and continue serving with humility. And in return, what do we get? Safety, spiritual safety. The holy name will never leave us at any time. Can you imagine? Kirtaniya Sadahari. The Vaishnavas will be there with us all the time. Isn't this great? This is what perfected devotees who have had darshan of the Supreme Lord, this is what they have asked Krishna for. This is what they have requested Krishna. And our spiritual experience and the experience of love will grow deeper and deeper, which means from ruchi to asakti to bhava to prema. So therefore, this is very important actually. So therefore, this humility, if there is, I mean, especially, I feel ashamed to say, but there is nothing wrong. This is a family. There is no doubt. There is nothing to worry. You can share. Sometimes when I have been pushed to very humiliating situations, very torturous situations, and you really feel helpless, there is every reason for you to retaliate in such a blasphemous way, in a very inappropriate way. Somehow out of nowhere, Krishna gives you some indication. It has happened with me, I'm sharing, that just to tolerate this one time, respond with humility. I would have never done it. Honestly, I know my nature. But somehow, in that helpless situation, you are just thinking, anything that will work, I will do. So you are not even expressing that humility in the right mood also, actually. In a helpless way, you have tried everything and it seems to backfire. And as one of the choices, you want to try out this humility. You fall at the feet of the other person and he says, please leave me. And you are great, I am fallen. And suddenly, in front of my eyes, I have seen the whole situation transform, dissolve. The other person starts crying. And I thought, my God. And then this is my reflection. It was a split-second decision. I would have equally chosen to smash your head. But somehow, I don't know what inspired. I made the choice to fall at your feet. It was a split-second decision. I could have as well chosen the other option. I would have criticized you, blasphemed you, but somehow someone protected. It must have been Krishna. It must have been the mercy of the Guru. It must have been the prayers of other Vaishnavas. And then right in front of your eyes, the situation dissolves. And then you realize, wow, if this was the silver lining that Krishna was going to show you, then it is worth the torture that you have gone through. If this was the silver lining that Krishna is trying to show you, at that moment you feel it is worth the torture that I have gone through. I have learned a very valuable lesson. I may not be able to retain that lesson. I may not be able to always act humbly, but certainly my conviction in humility by Krishna's mercy has increased. If 99 out of 100 times I would have responded without humility, after this experience that Krishna has given me, I can tell that at least it will never be 99 out of 100. At least 98 out of 100 times I may fail, but 2 times out of 100, I will try to act with humility, because that much realization, I mean, I can't even call it realization, but that glimpse of the potency of even acting humbly. There was no humility. So this is very important actually. So if we do that, then here he says we will be safe. The holy name will be with us all the time. The Vaishnavas will always be with us. Our spiritual experience and the experience of love will grow deeper and deeper. If all of this we can earn, which is the most valuable treasures of spiritual life, just by being humble, then it is worth it. It is worth it. And sometimes Krishna gives you this glimpse at the most excruciating times of your spiritual life. When someone is torturing and you are feeling the torture and grief is eating your heart, and you have every reason to smash that person, somewhere out of nowhere, Krishna gives you this strength, not only the indication, not only the intelligence, somehow empowers you, gives you the strength. Just act humbly. I will empower you. This one time, do it. And somehow you do it. And then you see the situation dissolve right in front of your eyes. So this is worth it. And at the end of it, you feel actually all this torture is worth it. This is such a valuable realization that actually humility works. As Maharaj is writing here, we will be safe. Our spiritual credits will be safe. The holy name will be with us all the time. The Vaishnavas will be with us all the time. Our spiritual experience and the experience of love will grow deeper and deeper. What else is needed actually? This is so therefore I just wish and pray that may Krishna give this remembrance when there is every reason for me to act in a proud way, arrogant way, in a when I have every reason to criticize the other person and blaspheme the other person. If this remembrance Krishna gives and the strength to follow it, then this is the greatest mercy of Krishna. Because the situation will dissolve and we will be protected. So therefore, Maharaj says, if we read the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur says again and again If you see a Vaishnava, bow down to him. If you can't bow down, then at least bow down to him in your mind. If you see a Vaishnava, be glad to see him. Because subsequently, these emotions will lead to a desire to serve that Vaishnava. He says that a person should have this one quality, not to distinguish between Vaishnavas, not judging them and not saying this Vaishnava is at that level of advancement, that one is there and I am here. Never compare. Never compare Vaishnavas. Because by that act of comparing, we are actually pulling ourselves one rung down. Which means after some time when we compare, we will see that difference has diminished. Of course, we may not be able to see. Our ability to see will only diminish actually. Then we will start seeing even very exalted Vaishnavas as being less advanced than us. That is exactly how Duryodhana also felt, right? When he looked around his shoulder, he could not see anyone more qualified than him. So if we are actually seeing many people less qualified than us, then it's probably a very important indication that actually it is the other way around. But Yudhishthir Maharaj, despite being so exalted, could actually find no one more fallen than him. So therefore, if we are comparing ourselves with other Vaishnavas, then our ability to understand our own level of advancement becomes diminished actually. We tend to overestimate our own level of advancement and underestimate the other person's level of advancement. And what do we gain? Certainly, we are going away from the lotus feet of Krishna. So therefore, he says, if we consider all Vaishnavas to be above ourselves, we will go directly to Krishna. Why not do it? It's so difficult, but still, I mean, what do we get in return? What do we get in return? This is what Dhruva Maharaj, when the Vaikuntha Viman descended, everyone there knew it had come for Dhruva Maharaj. Everyone knew that it was for Dhruva Maharaj. It was not for them. But Dhruva Maharaj went to everyone else and fell at their feet and took their blessings. And that's exactly why the Vaikuntha Viman was there for him and not others. This is the beauty of spiritual advancement. That the one who is advancing will actually see that he is not advancing. That's exactly the reason why the Vaikuntha Viman was there for Dhruva Maharaj. I mean, isn't this obvious for all of us who are hearing or visualizing this pastime? It is so obvious that the very fact that the Vaikuntha Viman had come for Dhruva Maharaj in itself means that he must be more exalted than the others. But interestingly, it was obvious to all of us except Dhruva Maharaj. Right? And that's why the Vaikuntha Viman had come for him. That is the humility. Right? So further on he says, if a person does not bow his head before the Vaishnavas, then that head will bring him to hell. So behind all the possible offenses, there is one single thing that eventually destroys our consciousness and prevents us from chanting the holy name behind all possible offenses. Behind all the possible offenses, there is one single thing that eventually destroys our consciousness and prevents us from chanting the holy name. And what is that? It is very important in our dealings with the Vaishnavas to first consider each Vaishnava above ourselves. This is an axiom, right? There is no, an axiom means you can't question it. It has to be accepted. 1 plus 1 is 2. You can't ask how. It's an axiom. You have to accept it. So similarly, in our spiritual practices, I mean, I don't do it honestly. I am reading whatever is given here. But if we can do this one thing, that every single Vaishnava is above me. If we can do this, then success is guaranteed. Accept it as an axiom. Don't even ask how. Don't even try to analyze this subject matter. By default, every Vaishnava is greater than me. If we learn to accept it as an axiom, then this is the greatest gift or the greatest thing that can happen in our spiritual life. We can think, he is my guru. Krishna has sent him to teach me something. If I consider him my guru, my teacher, I can learn something very important from him. So this is, if one genuinely can think like that. If someone comes up to you and starts criticizing another Vaishnava, tell that person, I have to do something very urgent. I have to run. This is you don't have to criticize that Vaishnava who is criticizing another Vaishnava. You have to tell, Prabhu, please, I will come. Just give me 2 minutes. I have something very urgent, and run away from that place. Run far away. Because when we hear offenses against others, our respect for the Vaishnavas will diminish whether we want it or not. And this is the thing. It will challenge our axiom. Right? When we hear criticism about others, it will challenge our axiom. And what is the axiom? Every Vaishnava is greater than me. Okay. And axioms are not meant to be challenged. Axioms are meant to be accepted without any challenge. And when we hear criticism of other Vaishnavas, it will start challenging those very axioms. Then there is problem. When a child who is learning basic mathematics from the teacher, 1 plus 1 equals 2. If the child starts asking how, then the child cannot learn, because axioms are meant to be accepted and not questioned or challenged. So the axiom which we are trying to accept in our life is every Vaishnava is greater than me. And when we start hearing criticism of other Vaishnavas, those very axioms will be challenged. And when those axioms become challenged, then we are in deep trouble. Therefore, we must not commit offenses ourselves, but we also must not hear offenses against a Vaishnava. If we see a fault in a person, I should think, why do I see this fault? It is because I also have the same fault. Right? Then Pratishta will go away. It is the same thing, two things. First thing is, when I see a fault in another person, okay, two things we have to do. First, I should understand that I have the same fault. And the second thing is that I should understand that my heart is malnourished and I need to nourish it with Vaishnava Preeti through service and 6 exchanges. So this should be our mood. When I see fault in another person, two things. I should understand that I have the same fault. Second, I should understand that my heart is malnourished and that I need to nourish it with Vaishnava Preeti through service and 6 exchanges. So if we, so that way, not that we stop seeing the faults in others. We may see faults, but in seeing those faults, we respond in a way that is actually going to be very favorable for us. So to say that stop seeing faults may be immediately difficult. But if we turn, if we flip this whole thing, and we actually start developing this mood of when I see fault in others, it means I have the same fault. And the second thing, when I see fault in others, it is a symptom that my heart is malnourished. So I should do something to nourish my heart. What? Serving other Vaishnavas and having the 6 exchanges with the Vaishnavas. This will nourish my heart. So that way, if you tell someone don't see faults, don't see faults, don't see faults, we may see faults. That will take time. But we can, even if we see faults, if we take this shift of mindset, then we can benefit by even seeing faults in others. In a very healthy way. You see fault in others, oh, that means you have the same fault. So which means, oh, if I have the same fault, then I need to address that fault. Like that. So this is where we end the commentary by Srila Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. Very instructive commentary, very powerful commentary, especially this last part about humility, the importance of humility. But before we move on to the commentary by Srimati Urmila Mataji, if there are any quick comments, discussion points, questions, anything anyone would like to share, add, you can please raise your hands and speak, or you can type your questions in the chat box. Yes, Venkat Govind Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranams.
Dandat Prabhu.
Prabhu, you said that when we see a Vaishnava, we have to bow down and we have to feel happy by seeing a Vaishnava. There is a verse in Bhagavatam. There are 6 things one has to do when we see a Vaishnava. Do you know that shloka, Prabhu, that verse?
There are 6 things that we need to do when we see a Vaishnava.
Yes, one is, I remember 2 or 3. One is, one should not kill a Vaishnava. Number two is one should feel happy about seeing a Vaishnava. Third is to bow down, and like that there are 2 or 3 more points. It is a verse in Bhagavatam.
Are you sure it's a verse in Bhagavatam? I mean, there are 6 types of offenses. One is to not feel happy seeing a Vaishnava. Another is to kill one, to hurt one, to not feel happy seeing one, to blaspheme a Vaishnava,
Yes.
and you know, like that. There are like 6 things. Yeah.
I had come across once, but I now forgotten completely.
I don't think it's a verse in Bhagavatam, but definitely it is there. There are 6 ways of offending a Vaishnava. So
Yes.
yeah, correct.
Okay, bro. Thank you, bro.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Anything else anyone would like to share as? Add Madhavi Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you just mentioned that this is an axiom, so no one can say anything about it. And still I'm saying, so please forgive me. I'm prior hand only asking that forgiveness. But I don't understand that if we consider everybody as higher Vaishnava than us, we also learn in Nectar of Instruction that how we should, how there are gradation and how our behavior with each of that gradation should be different.
Correct.
Like this thing what we are learning today, that should be at the back of the mind, that even if we are dealing with the Kanishta Adhikari, he can anytime progress and become a greater Vaishnava than or we are not means I don't consider myself.
No.
But how we should understand
The
that?
point is, okay, you see someone as Kanishtadhikari, someone as a Madhyamadhikari, someone as an Uttamadhikari. So how would that change as long as we are seeing ourselves as a lower Kanishtadhikari than the others? Right? So then you see another person, a more advanced Kanishtadhikari, a much more advanced Madhyamadhikari, and a really more advanced Uttamadhikari. And between them, you can always choose a Uttamadhikari's association if that is available. Right? So
yeah, with Uttamadhikari, there is no question only. He's already much higher than us. Even the Madhyamadhikari also will be higher than us if we consider ourselves as a Kanishta. But when we deal with the Kanishta Adhikari, like it is said now, we should you should be compassionate towards them, you should help them and all those things. So for that, you should one will have some or the other superiority bhava, then only that kind of exchange is possible. So, or you explain, I may be wrong.
or you can say that, oh, he has a greater potential. He has a greater potential than what I have.
Okay, that's what means in the long run, he can become a greater Vaishnava.
Yeah. So he has a greater potential than me. So you can see that. Just that I may have little more knowledge. I may have been little bit more exposed to the tenets of the Vaishnava teachings. But I see more potential here. If only this person is educated, he can become a greater Vaishnava than me. I see more potential here. One can see like that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Srinivas Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Danut Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandavat Prabhu.
Prabhuji, when you were explaining about this, to give respect to every Vaishnava and seeing every Vaishnava higher than you and better than you, I was just with my closed eyes, I was hearing, and it reminded me of Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja was going on, and devotees were glorifying Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was like very grave, and he was in fact very emotional, but he was trying to control his emotions. And then Srila Prabhupada said it's all because of my spiritual master. And then at last, Prabhupada was in tears and he said that it's all because of you, and you all are my gurus.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he did feel like that actually.
yes.
So that is actually favorable consciousness. We may not naturally have it, uh, you know, we may not naturally have it, but no one naturally has anything for that matter. Everything to start with, we practice it, and by practice, gradually over a period of time, it becomes natural. So,
Mhm.
I mean, any quality also is like that. Uh, we understand its importance, and we understand
Mhm.
our own incapability to naturally follow it. Understand that, let me practice. Yeah, like that.
Actually, Prabhupada, like when I hear that thing, and when Prabhupada is crying, and he's in real ecstasy. So when he's saying it, actually, there's no doubt that he's feeling that every
Yeah.
disciple of his is a spiritual
Hmm.
master, or he's actually sharing his heart.
Hmm.
So just came
Yeah,
to my mind, and I thought of sharing.
yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Anything else anyone would like to share, ask, add? Okay, there is one thing here in the chat box. Uh, any suggestion that we can use to protect when time comes? Although I meditate on these qualities, but fail when the right time comes. Uh, uh, I was recently very upset because I showed some aversion which might not have been necessary. Well, it's okay. I mean, we will definitely fail. We should not fear failing, but we should fear giving up trying actually. So it is fine that we failed. So we can definitely offer a prayer to Krishna um, and meditate on the importance of following it nicely, and how it helps our spiritual life. And the next time we are put in the same situation, maybe Krishna's mercy can flow, and we may be able to respond the right way. But it's okay if we don't respond the right way. It's okay. I mean, if we have taken a vow and we are not able to follow the vow 99 times, but still we should not give up that vow, because at least once I followed. So my aim should be next time twice, even though I can fail 98 times. Uh, um, uh, I can fail 98 times, but at least 2 times I will succeed, and that is my success. So yeah, I mean, we have to set realistic goals, and if we fail, that's okay. We will still not give up trying. Yeah. Yes, Ramacharya bro.
Really, Dandawat. So I just want to kind of appreciate your guidance, Prabhuji. I have been very thankful by hearing all of the classes. I don't miss any of the classes, and I don't know how much I have learned since I started joining your class. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's so clear and very practical learnings. So I just want to appreciate Prabhuji for that. Thank you so much for also trying to answer the question that I just asked. Dandavats. Hare Krishna.
We are just reading from the writings of Raghunath Das Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. It is their glory, and we are just reading. Actually, honestly, I mean, I am surprised that so many devotees are attending, even though we are just coming together and reading. reading a book, you might as well read it alone. But definitely in the association of devotees, uh, reading also becomes such a powerful, uh, so powerfully empowering that in the association, a simple act of reading a book can be so potent actually. This is so that is the greatness of the association of devotees, that even a simple act of reading a book can be so fruitful and uh, powerful in the association of devotees. Anyway, so we still have about 13 minutes time and see how much we can complete Srimati Urmila Mataji's commentary. It's more or less a very quick recap of what we have seen throughout. So we may not spend much time discussing, unless if I find somewhere I will pause and we can discuss also. So Mataji says, by verse 7, the practitioner on the path of spontaneous devotion has stopped trying to enjoy money, mundane knowledge, possessions, and gross or subtle sex on the plea of bhakti. So which means, the grossest, so anartha in the form of prajalpa, muktikata, and things of that sort, and little more subtle in the form of lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, and pride, and little more subtler on the form of in the form of hmm, uh, uh, in the form of pratishta, asha. Sorry. So this is first is prajalpa and muktikata. Then comes the 6 anarthas. Then comes cheating, hypocrisy, and deceit. And so one may have overcome all these gross and subtler aspects of anarthas. With great care, such a person swims in the ocean of divine love, holding the jewel of love. But the root of all pride and deceit remains in his heart. Even though from the the surface has been cleansed, but under the carpet, the root of all these dirt is still there in the form of this desire to be honored. The ocean of love, after all, is all around the practitioner, but not within. Around him, everything is fine. Everyone thinks that he is swimming in love, but inside that, this desire to be honored, the desire to be glorified by others is still there. So the love of God, it is not there inside. Bhakti Vinod again lists ways in which this root manifests at this deepest level. What each item on his list has in common is this yearning. I want others to see how great I am. I am pure, learned, and detached. I want others to appreciate how I am swimming in the ocean of spiritual love. I am a great saintly person. Honor me, glorify me. Right. So he says, unlike the sensations of having a prostitute stealing one's wealth, a tigress eating one's heart, prostitute stealing one's wealth was compared to Prajalpa or Asadvarta. Asadvarta Veshya Visrjamati Sarvaswa Harani. Kata Mukti Vyagrya Na Shrunu Kila Sarvatma Gilan. So this is Mukti Kata. Robbers pulling one around with strong rope around the neck. Gale Badva Hanyeham iti Bakabid Vartma Pagane. This is the 6 enemies of lust, anger, envy, greed, pride, and illusion. Or burning stinky urine all over oneself, which is deceit. At this point, a person may feel that a party is going on in his heart. Well, I don't really feel I am suffering from any of these kind of anarthas. Looks like I am very advanced, and people should actually see how advanced I am. Right? There is food, singing, and dancing. This must be spiritual, a person could think. Raghunath Das Goswami tells us to take a closer look in our heart, to smell the food and listen to the songs going on there. The dancing in the heart may not be that of pure ladies of spiritual love, but someone else entirely. So it may not be the dance of spiritual love. It may be the dance of this Pratishta Nari, this lady, this unchaste lady of this desire for name, fame, glorification. It's a woman, yes, but the wrong kind of woman. Instead of chaste love, this woman is filled with impure lust. Her boyfriend, deceit, dances with her, and they are eating a dead dog. So this is what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that when this Pratishta Nari is dancing, she does not dance alone. She dances with her Upapati, means her paramour, which is deceit. Because you can't always, people will not glorify you always, because they will find some fault. Because no one is fault free. And when you know that you have that fault and you don't want others to see that fault, then you want to hide it. Deceit. So along with this desire for fame and glorification comes this deceit. And that will bring in all the other anarthas also. With the dog-eating dance of desires for distinctions going on in our heart, that ladies of love go elsewhere. So when this desire for self-glorification is there, Krishna will never enter that heart. Because Krishna will enter where he is glorified. Etra gayanti madbhakta tatra tishtami narada. Right? Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridaye piva. Etra gayanti madbhakta tatra tishtami narada. So, but etra gayanti madbhakta, which means madbhakta will sing Krishna katha, not one's own katha. Right? We may think we want their presence, but they will not stay in such a place. Fame is like dog meat because it seems like nourishment, but it only brings pain and disease. Because fame is so flickering and can turn to nothing or infamy in a moment, those who seek it are filled with fear. Those who want fame are filled with fear because they want to protect it all the time. People seeking fame must always adjust themselves to appear pleasing to others. They will lose their identity because they want to be seen as a person fit to be appreciated by everyone, and everyone has a different definition of what is fit to be appreciated. So we will try to change ourselves, again and again, in order to fit other people's definition of praiseworthy. So that way, we will lose our own identity. And we will always be anxious. Anxiety thus pervades such people's lives as they attempt to constantly modify everything about themselves to ensure a good reputation. So they will meet someone who says, that they will say that, Prabhu, actually, you know what? You can be straightforward. Even if you may sound very harsh, it is better to be harsh and straightforward than to be soft and not so straightforward. I really appreciate straightforwardness. You say, yeah, Prabhu, I am very straightforward. I don't mind being harsh. And other people say, Arey, you don't have to tell it on the face. So, Toda, you speak it little softly, and later when I'm ready to hear, you can tell, why do you have to speak on the face? I say, yeah, Prabhu, I really appreciate soft speech only. So because different people appreciate different things, and in order to gain people's appreciation, we change and we have to be anxiety ridden all the time, because we want to gain good reputation. The desire for such dog meat is like a dancing promiscuous woman. She's promiscuous because the desire for fame is about going to wherever accolades and glorifications can be found, rather than loyalty and service. So this is the problem with desire for fame. That wherever we get it, we will go there. And whenever it stops, we will leave that place. Which means, basically, as long as it takes people to know us properly, we will stay there. Because when they know us properly, they will not glorify us. So which means we will be staying there with anxiety, trying to protect all our faults till the time they detect. The moment they detect us, then we will move elsewhere, because we will not get glorification from that. And this is such a terrible life, actually. Such a terrible life. In the same way, a prostitute destroys her health and body for others' pleasure. The desire for fame destroys our peace and devotion in order to pretend to be what others want us to be. Thus, we invite our boyfriend of deceit and pretentiousness. So this desire for fame always comes with deceit. We wear a variety of masks so everyone will praise what they think we are. Truth, what to speak of the absolute truth, cannot blossom in such a heart. The problem is that this wanton woman has been dancing in our heart for a very long time. It is difficult for us to recognize how much she is hurting us, and almost impossible to drive her out by our own strength. We have just 3 slides left. Let's just complete this. In the 5th verse, we were advised to call for help from the devotees of the killer of Baka, personified hypocrisy. Here we are advised help must come from Prabhudaita Samantam. In other words, now we need not just any devotee of Krishna, but generals in his army. We may ask why top commanders are necessary. Because the dancing dog eater is the desire for our own honor. Her presence makes us envy those who are worthiest of honor. So therefore, in order to overcome lust, anger, envy, such things, all the other devotees can help. But when it comes to this desire for fame and honor, we need a very powerful servant, and we need to serve that servant. Therefore, to evict her, we take a servant's position to those whom we would otherwise envy. We engage always in the service of such persons. Sadatvam sevasva. Honoring devotee commanders in a practical way through serving them gets us free from the desire to receive honor ourselves. We then feel satisfied to be in our honest position. When the unchaste dancer is thus gone, and the pure ladies of divine love then take a precedence in our heart, we can go through the doorway into fully realized spiritual service in our eternal form, starting with verse 8. So next week, when we start verse 8, we are going to enter into the doorway. We are going to go through the doorway into fully realized spiritual service in our eternal form. Well, it has been a very, at least for myself, I can say it has been a very fruitful journey, because someone was there to participate in this discussion. Otherwise, it would have been difficult. And it has been quite fruitful, and it has been quite long also. I think today is the 74th session, and I never ever expected that this would go on for so long. But thank you all very much, and it has been such a fruitful journey together. The 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, we are left with 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 more verses. But the subsequent verses starting from 8 is going to be successively smaller and smaller and smaller commentaries. So if for 7 sessions if for 7 verses we have taken 74 sessions, then for the remaining 5 verses we are not going to take very long. We are going to complete very fast. Especially some of the verses may take the whole verse with all the commentaries, may take just 1 session. So we probably 74 means before we touch 100, I think we will easily complete the rest of the book. So thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation and your sharing your valuable thoughts, realizations, and questions. It has been a very fruitful journey together, and I really hope and pray that we will actually complete this journey of Manah Siksha together, and then hoping to continue the journey further in the form of some other writings of the Acharyas. So thank you very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. Hoping to have your association next Tuesday also. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srimati Urmila Devi Dasi ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.